Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session of the Tacoma Park City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember Kovar,
Here.
Councilmember Dabala,
Present.
Councilmember Costick,
Here.
Councilmember Siemens,
Present.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Searcy.
Here.
Great. All right, let's see. On our agenda this evening, we do have one change. We have an additional voting item tonight, which is an emergency ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with a nonprofit housing organization to use funds from the Housing Reserve Fund for a housing project at 1202 Holton Lane. So we will get to that later this evening. Looking at our agenda moving forward, next week, we have a voting session, a resolution recognizing our retiring city manager, Suzanne Ludlow. That will be her last city council meeting. And then don't forget, Sunday, July 4th is 4th of July, and there's announcements about how we're going to be celebrating the 4th in the city. On Wednesday, July 7th, we're back again for our regular meeting. Our voting session that night includes a resolution authorizing submission of a Maryland revitalization grant application for acquisition funds and architectural fees for New Hampshire Avenue, a resolution regarding proposed boundaries for the minor master plan. That evening, we have work sessions. We have a presentation and discussion of election options for 2022 and 2024, a contract for redistricting consultant, discussion of committees, and discussion of purchasing code amendments. On Tuesday, July 13th, we had tentatively scheduled a city council meeting. This is a special meeting that will provide the presentation of the final report of the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. That meeting is to begin at 6:30 p.m. And just note that is tentative at the moment as we try and finalize it with the task force members. Then on Wednesday, July 14th, we will begin the meeting at 6 p.m. with a presentation from Montgomery Housing Partnership regarding their project at Hillwood Manor. And then our regular meeting will begin at 7:30. We'll have a voting session, which will have a single reading ordinance awarding a contract for consulting services for redistricting. We have lots of work sessions that night. We have the subdivision of 7402 Garland Avenue, a discussion of legislative priorities, a discussion of committees, an FY 2022 budget amendment number 1, discussion of a resolution to accept union reopener agreements, a discussion of procurement items, looks like a police video camera trailer, and continued discussion of purchasing code amendments. Then on Wednesday, July 21st, our voting session is packed. We have a budget amendment number 1 for FY 2022, first reading ordinance related to committees, first reading ordinance for the purchasing orders, a resolution regarding the subdivision of 7402 Garland Avenue, a resolution regarding the union reopener, and a single reading ordinance approving procurement, excuse me. Our work sessions that night will be discussion of committees, a discussion of continuation of Laurel Avenue streetery, and appointments to the Youth Council. On Wednesday, July 28th, we begin at 7:30. We have voting items, a resolution authorizing submittal of MML legislative action requests, second reading ordinance for the FY 2022 budget amendment number 1, second reading ordinance amending the Tacoma Code related to committees, second reading ordinance regarding the purchasing ordinance, a resolution providing for appointments to the Youth Council, and a resolution providing for the city's summer recess. And then we have a discussion of committees for a work session. Then the city council will be on recess for the month of August. We will not meet on Wednesday, September 1st. So our first meeting back will be September 8th. And that is not really a 4-week. I did the 6-week look ahead just to prepare you all for July, but then you get August off. All right, we will begin with public comments on voting items this evening. Our first voting item is a resolution authorizing execution of an employment agreement with Mr. Jamal T. Fox as the city manager. And I think I'm Mr. Wayne Sherwood signed up to speak to this. Is Mr. Sherwood with us?
He is with us. Mr. Sherwood, you should be able to unmute and turn on your video.
Good evening, Mayor Stewart, members of the City Council, and City Manager Suzanne Ludlow. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'd like to comment on two of tonight's voting items. The City Manager contract. I have not met Mr. Jamal Fox, and I don't know anything about him except what has been published in various public records or newspaper accounts. However, I'd like to make the following observations. First, Mr. Fox has no experience as a city manager. He was selected as city administrator of Camas last July by the mayor there and has served in that capacity for less than 1 year. Camas has a mayor-council form of government. The mayor of Camas makes most of the key executive decisions for the city. The city administrator in Camas is comparable to the position of chief operating officer. He carries out the routine daily functions of administering the city government under the direction of the mayor. If Mr. Fox is named city manager of Tacoma Park, he would have major executive decision-making responsibilities over the city government and the city of Tacoma Park as a whole. Second, Mr. Fox has held numerous jobs over the last 5 years. I think this is of concern. I propose instead that the City Council select Antonio Duval, the Tacoma Park Police Chief, as interim city manager for Tacoma Park, while the City Council conducts a new search for a city manager with more experience. Chief Duval knows this community in Montgomery County well. Most people say they think he's doing a very good job, is a good manager, and works well with others within our city government. He seems to be developing a good IT operation for the police. I have not asked Chief Duval's permission to make this suggestion, but if the City Council made a special request that he take on this responsibility on an interim basis, perhaps he would agree. I hope so. Public Safety Task Force. There is a resolution tonight that the city extend the life of the current Public Safety Task Force until October. I recommend instead that the life of the current task force be extended only through the end of July. The consultant says it will turn in the final report of the task force to the City Council by June 30th. After that, the task force will have no further official responsibilities. I suggest that the full task force have 2 meetings during July and that those meetings be public in-person meetings in the municipal building, perhaps in the Azalea Room. That would provide the current task force members with an opportunity to explain their work over the past 4 months and to have a public discussion. I think that would be very helpful. If the City Council wants to establish an ongoing public safety advisory group of some type, I recommend that you appoint a new committee to serve that function starting this fall. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Sherwood. And you took care of both your public comments. And so we have no other public comments on the first 2 voting items. So we'll move down to the voting item on Tacoma Junction site plan. And Ms. Kalinsky from Neighborhood Development Company is with us and has extended time. So I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Mayor Stewart, and I apologize for some reason the name on my log.
Ms. Kalinsky, I think you're frozen. I think she's frozen. Do we have a way to communicate with her?
Ms. Grigsby is on the meeting. Perhaps she can
right.
try to reach out to her.
This is Raz Grigsby. I see that Joel Bonder is also on the call. Maybe you'd like
Yes.
to recognize
Can you-
him.
Yes, I will send her. Oh, wait a minute. I just got a. Yeah, we just sent Michaela a text that she's frozen, waiting for a response.
All right. Why don't we go to Mike Royst? He's the only other one signed up for public comments on Tacoma Junction this evening on this voting item.
So he should be able to speak now.
Okay.
Okay, this is Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
All right. Let me put this up. Okay. Good evening, members of the City Council and Mayor Stewart. My name is Mike Royce. I am a resident of Tacoma Park from Ward 1. I'd like to start by saying the people you heard at last Wednesday's City Council meeting during public comment are not the only voices out there. At last Wednesday's City Council meeting, I was somewhat stunned to still be hearing the same reasons I have heard for the last several years as to why some residents want this redevelopment effort to just go away. I am not pro or anti-co-op or pro or anti-developer, but I am pro Tacoma Junction revitalization, as are many other residents. The city of Tacoma Park deserves better than maintaining the status quo and keeping the existing parking lot for a truck turnaround for one single business. I believe the revitalization of Tacoma Junction would benefit the city as a whole, fostering both community and economic development. I, along with many other residents, recognize that there is still work to be done by Neighborhood Development Company and the city prior to Montgomery County Planning Commission approval. But I still feel like the heavy lift work has been done. It's just fine tuning things to get approval. But in light of the residents you heard from at last week's City Council meeting, I do believe the proposed development to revitalize the junction and the co-op can coexist as businesses all over this community coexist and even benefit from each other. To be sure, there are people who are passionate about stopping this development. You have heard their thoughts repeatedly at public forums like this. I'm sure you know this, but I felt it important to underscore that the anti-development position of those who are most vocal at these meetings represent just one perspective. I talked to plenty of neighbors and friends who support this development and cannot understand why so much effort is being channeled into stopping this development. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Royce. All right. Do we have, I thought I saw Ms. Kalinsky. Is she with us?
She actually has her hand raised, so you may see it.
Oh, there she is. I see her. Okay. All right.
Hi.
Great. All right. You're up now.
Okay, thanks. I'm very sorry about that. In addition to providing significant revenue for the city for other purposes, the project would eliminate current environmental issues such as contaminated soil and non-porous surfaces that provide no stormwater management. It will also provide a green, energy-efficient building, additional stormwater management, and preservation and improvement of the forested area adjoining the site. Since it started, NDC has worked closely with you, the council, the city staff, and the members of the Community Consultation Process Advisory Committee, listened to the very diverse views of other citizens at numerous work sessions, and used its best efforts to ensure that the Tacoma Junction project meets the goals set out in the city's original RFP and subsequently incorporated in the Tacoma Junction Development Agreement signed by the city and NDC in 2016. That agreement sets out the blueprint of the Tacoma Junction project, the rights and obligations of NDC and the city in connection with the development, and more importantly, the commitment of both of us to our public-private partnership. I think that phrase, public-private partnership, and the spirit of cooperation it implies has unfortunately been forgotten over the years, particularly in the last 12 months. What were the goals included in the development agreement, and why do I use the term best efforts? I use it because that is the standard of performance specifically negotiated and included in the development agreement. The agreement provides that NDC agrees to use its best efforts to incorporate 7 elements in the draft and final site plan of the project. For clarity and guidance, best efforts is then defined to mean that a party will endeavor in good faith to employ all commercially reasonable measures available to that party and within that party's power with promptness and due diligence to bring about an event or result. Such obligation includes a requirement that the party make affirmative efforts to accomplish the objective. The 7 elements are: the project will be constructed so that it meets or exceeds the requirements for LEED Gold certification. The project will include green building strategies, the final specifications of which will be resolved through consultation between the parties. The project will include an accessible outdoor space devoted to year-round public use or enjoyment that attracts the public. The public space must fulfill the design requirements outlined in section 6.3.6 of the Montgomery County zoning ordinance. The project will preserve and include alternatives to automobile transportation such as bicycle sharing stations and bike racks. The project will include parking options for area businesses not located in the project. The project's commercial space will be leased predominantly to local and regional operators, a retail commercial destination that provides options for the local community.
To eat all of you.
The project will provide reasonable accommodation to the co-op for loading of deliveries and customer parking. NDC believes that the final site plan before you tonight satisfies each of the first 6 requirements of the development agreement, and that the final site plan should be approved conditioned on the State Highway Administration's approval of the 140-foot lay-by we have supported, or the alternative 115-foot lay-by, which would satisfy item 7 of the agreement. This conditional approval will allow the project's review process, which has faced inexplicable, arbitrary decision-making by SHA, to move to the Montgomery County Planning Board on July 15th, in parallel with our ongoing discussions with SHA. As public-private partners in this development, we think it both reasonable and required by the development agreement that you agree to do so. At last Wednesday's work sessions, council members asserted, and tonight's resolution before the council recommends, that the Tacoma Junction site plan be disapproved for 5 reasons. Reason number 1 being the lay-by has not received approval from the State Highway Administration. As the main development partner, NDC will continue to engage with SHA, and we believe the concerns raised in SHA's letter of June 16th to both 140-foot and 115-foot lay-by can be addressed to SHA's satisfaction. As noted previously, the development agreement requires that the final site plan provide reasonable accommodation to the co-op for loading of deliveries and customer parking. After the council's approval of the Tacoma Junction preliminary combined site plan in 2018, NDC and the co-op entered into the cooperation agreement, which contains a set of accommodations, including the larger lay-by, that the co-op deemed sufficient to warrant its agreement not oppose the combined site plan unless it was changed in a manner that would materially adversely impact the co-op's operation. The cooperation agreement then contains one set, not the only set, one set of accommodations that will satisfy the reasonable accommodation for loading of deliveries. Provision of for loading of deliveries provision in the development agreement. A variance from the cooperation agreement only gives the co-op the right to oppose that variance, and only if it materially adversely impacts the co-op's operation. NDC has used and continues to use its best efforts to seek approval of the 140-foot lay-by. However, to date, SHA remains skeptical of large 18-wheelers' abilities to park safely within that lay-by. We believe that if a governmental entity will not permit the larger lay-by, it is therefore an unreasonable accommodation. Accordingly and appropriately, NDC proposed an alternate lay-by of 115 feet, which would allow deliveries to the Tacoma Junction project and the co-op using all sizes of trucks except for 18-wheelers. The co-op will be able to make all of its deliveries using the shorter lay-by. It just may require that the co-op do some logistical coordination with its suppliers, something it has previously rejected out of hand based on the view that making accommodations is only a one-way concept. As just one example, UNFI, one of the co-op's biggest suppliers, highlights its ability to accommodate the delivery needs of clients located in tight urban areas with its ability to use smaller trucks, including first offloading from semis. Being less convenient or at more cost does not mean that the shorter lay-by is not a means of providing a reasonable delivery accommodation to the co-op. Tonight's proposed resolution erroneously presupposes in lines 27 through 32 that the larger lay-by is the only answer. Reason number 2, more work is needed to address the rear facade design in order to have a minimal impact on the residential neighborhood and wooded area behind it and ensure less intrusive and more visually appropriate design. NDC has modified the rear facade design at least 3 times in response to earlier specific comments received by the public and this council, including Councilwoman Kustok. First, a great deal of thought has been given to reduce the visibility of the building to homeowners along Columbia Avenue. One, the height of the building has been reduced so that it cannot be seen above the tree line of the wooded area from Columbia Avenue. And two, the wooded area has been neglected over the years, and NDC will be retaining an arborist to implement a plan to improve the long-term health of existing trees and shrubs, and a plan to plant 34 mature shade trees, 10 evergreen trees, and 32 shrubs in the wooded area to create additional screening. And three, varied materials have been added to the facade to break up the rear elevation, including the addition of numerous trellises, which will provide a green camouflage. Second, we have minimized the impact of lights from the project by using low impact code minimum lighting, placing all lighting on the lower level of the building and directing all lighting away from the Columbia Avenue. Noise from the garage has been minimized by adding windows in the rear, which will improve the circulation of natural air in the garage, resulting in the use of a smaller garage fan. We believe the rear facade issue has been more than adequately addressed and is not a valid basis for disapproval of this site plan. Reason number three, the plan does not provide 2,700 square feet of public space of the type and quality of that included in the plan that was submitted for development review pursuant to Resolution 2018-41. The development agreement provides the project will include an accessible outdoor space devoted to year-round public use or enjoyment, and that the public space must fulfill the design requirements outlined in Section 6.3.6 of the Montgomery County Zoning Ordinance. Section 6.3.6 of the zoning ordinance defines public open space as space devoted to public use or enjoyment that attracts public appreciation due to its location and amenities, and includes design standards that require the open space about a public sidewalk, be a minimum of 15 feet wide, include seating and shade, and be in a contiguous space. Up to 5% of public open space may be used for outdoor cafe areas. We all have known since the beginning of that the Tacoma Junction site is a tight development site. NDC has worked diligently with staff and the council on this issue and is providing 3,890 square feet of open space, all of which can be used for public gathering, bake sales, art shows, or other public for public seating within the final site plan, more than meeting the requirements of the development agreement and the zoning ordinance. We believe, again, that this issue has been more than adequately addressed. Reason number four, public parking for area businesses is not adequate as required by Resolution 2018-41. One of the stated goals of the Tacoma Junction project is to encourage various modes of transportation to and from the junction. Accordingly, bike racks and a bike sharing station are included in the site plan, as well as a new bus stop located in front of the project. The current lot provides 50 parking spaces at most, and that capacity is often significantly reduced because of large truck deliveries to the co-op and other events taking place on the lot. The final site plan provides parking for 62 cars and 7 motorcycles or scooters for the use of the project's businesses, co-op customers, and customers of area businesses, plus 1 reserved space for the co-op. This is more than sufficient to meet the junction's needs and consistent with the transportation goal of the project. In fact, adding more parking is inconsistent with the project's goals. The final site plan meets or exceeds the requirements of the development agreement, and a finding of inadequate parking is not a valid basis for disapproval. Reason number 5, stormwater treatment does not significantly exceed the 50% requirement specified in Resolution 2018-41. The development agreement provides that the project will include green building strategies, the final specifications of which will be resolved through consultation between parties. Resolution 2018-41, which was not prepared after consultation with NDC, provides that stormwater treatment will significantly exceed the city's 50% requirement for redevelopment. The final site plan incorporates environmentally sustainable development concepts, including the use of sustainable building materials, 3 green roof facilities, and a bioretention facility. On-site stormwater treatment will exceed the city's 50% requirement by 15%, which, given the closeness of the wooded area and NDC's and the community's desire to preserve and improve its maintenance, does significantly exceed the city's requirements, therefore satisfying the Resolution 2018-41 requirement. Or as expressed, there is no record of what this phrase means, and I lost my place. For all of the above reasons, we submit that the resolution before you should be rejected and the Tacoma Junction final site plan should be approved with the condition of the State Highway Administration's approval of either the 140-foot lay-by we have supported or the alternative 150-foot lay-by we have proposed. In conclusion, from the start, the path of the Tacoma Junction project has been a bumpy one, fraught with competing intra-city interests and political headwinds. Yet NDC has stayed the course because it believed the city council was committed to the project after it determined, after a long study, that its benefits to the community far outweighed the views of some. We have spent considerable time toward making this project a success and invested a considerable amount of money in reliance on the city's good faith. We will not walk away from that investment. The political winds may have shifted in the last year, but we never believed the city council would abandon its partner in more difficult times. Rather, we expected and expect that the city council will stand by its commitment to the Tacoma Junction project and NDC. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on then to general public comments. We have Miss Mary Jane Machui up first.
Hello, everybody. Mary Jane Machui, Ward 2. I'm very, very upset that the city is trying to get rid of people like low-income homeowners like me and my son. And I'm extremely upset by number 5. You said an emergency money, $270,000 from housing reserve to help people who are wealthier than me. And there was more money set aside before for people, again, wealthier than me and my son. Why are you stealing from Peter to pay Paul? I mean, or even, I mean, I make $27,000 a year in my retirement after I pay for medical insurance. Why should I be? And I've been paying taxes for 36 years, okay? And most of them has been the full amount because I didn't know about all the ways I could save money until 5 years ago, okay? So I've been paying a lot of taxes, property taxes, and as things have gotten worse for low-income people, homeowners like me. A lot of them are Black in my neighborhood. We got a lot of Black and disabled people in my neighborhood. I'd hate for them to leave. And I'm just really sick and tired of giving money to people who will make more money than me and saying, oh, well, it's trickle-down economics. Well, that's what Republicans say, trickle-down economics, get more wealthy people moving in this city. And they'll start pat me and my son on the head and say, good boy or good girl. I'm sick of it. I want respect. I'm sorry. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Next, we have Sean Henley. Oh, there you are, Sean. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. So my name's Sean Henley. I'm a public works employee for the city of Tacoma Park and the president of AFSCME Local 3399, which represents city employees. And I just wanted to add a quick addendum to the mayoral proclamation regarding Juneteenth made last week. I'd like to call attention to the fact that city workers were not given the day off last Friday, and no official statement was shared by the city administration. The decision to make Juneteenth a federal holiday gave little notice. The federal, state, and nearby municipal governments found a way.
SPCE, I want respect.
The federal, state, and nearby municipal governments found a way to give their employees a holiday, acknowledging the importance of the anniversary and its historical significance to our country and its reckoning with injustice towards people of color. I hope that with the help of city council and the mayor, our city administration finds a way to formally acknowledge the anniversary and retroactively compensate workers for coming into work last Friday. Thanks. That's all I had.
Great. Thank you so much for coming to the council tonight. Those are all the comments we have. We will now move on to council comments. Do I have council comments this evening? Anybody? Nobody? All right, and I will kick off. And I want to thank Laura Barkley and the Old Town Business Association for Pride Weekend and all the work that people did for that. It was had a number of events and it was very successful. So I want to thank her for that. For last week, or this week still, is Pollinator Week in Tacoma Park. And last night, the Climate Action Coffee and the City of Tacoma Park hosted a panel discussion. And I just want to thank the Climate Action Coffee as well as our sustainability manager, Gina Matthias, for all their work on that. Next, I know we've had some comments regarding the ZTA on small cell towers. That is going to have a work session before the county council next week, I believe. We did send our letter to Council President Tom Hucker and the full county council on Monday, expressing our opposition to that, and that is up on the city website if people would like to see it. On Juneteenth, I was able to attend the BlackRock event in Germantown, and I just want to thank the Montgomery County Office of Human Rights. It was a great event. And regarding Juneteenth, I was able to look up what we need to do to make it an official holiday in the city of Tacoma Park. And according to the city's codes, personnel chapter that lists holidays for which compensation is paid. That is chapter 4.04.320. So we need to actually have an ordinance to add Juneteenth, and how compensation is paid would need to be negotiated with the unions as we have with all our holidays. So I'd like to ask my colleagues now if there are any objections to starting to work on that ordinance and work with the unions to finalize Juneteenth officially as a paid holiday in the city of Tacoma Park. Any objections? I'm seeing thumbs up. All right, we will get on that and start moving on that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Oh, I see Councilor Bala has her hand up, so go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, for those of you who may not have heard, the county released its climate action plan today, and you may recall that some of the city's climate framework, some of the city's climate framework actions are tied to progress in the county level. So this is great. And you may recall that a lot of Tacoma residents served on some of the work groups that led to the development of this plan. So it's now official county policy, and I'll be sending everybody on the council and anybody else who wants it a link to the summary and the full plan. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll turn to the city manager for her comments this evening.
Thank you. That moved quickly. So my notes. One moment. So I always start off my discussion with the fact that vaccinations are available. I have been seeing some interesting reports out of other states of people getting COVID-19 suddenly, and those around them who have been vaccinated not getting the illness. The new variants are very strong. And there's also a larger number of teenagers and up into the 20s of folks who are not getting the vaccine. Please urge your residents to get vaccinated. There's options all over the city, all over the state, all over the county. And we need to just take the shot. Just get it done. It makes us all safer. And we want to do it before things change. So let's knock these variants out. I want to note that there is a community listening session on Monday for the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force. This is the last of these public listening sessions before they finalize their recommendations for the council. So we urge people to join in, and that session will be on Monday, June 28th at 6:30 p.m. And you can go online to our Public Safety Task Force website to get the link to register. This is a key point, and I ask that you look at the information that will be put out and then share your opinion with the task force. They've been working really hard, so they would love to hear from you. And finally, I note that this is my last real council meeting. Next week will be a little bit more of a formality and something enjoyable. But I want to thank everybody for the retirement party that was given to me last Friday. It was really nice, and my family was so thrilled, and the weather was perfect. So everything about it was memorable, and I really appreciate it. It just made my day. I note that my final day as a city employee is next week, Thursday, July 1st. I did put in my city manager comments my personal email address, so I'll be in the area and people can contact me. So that's my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, next Thursday. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's move on to our voting items.
I had my hand up.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Councilmember Siemens. You have a background again in which your hand disappears. My apologies. Go ahead.
Well, my apology for that. And while I'm apologizing, I did want to apologize to Ms. Ludlow for missing the retirement party. I regret not having been able to make it, and do want to let you know that I certainly appreciate the many years that you've put in for the city and your job as city manager, and also wish you well for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our voting items. And I think the first one up is actually our voting item on a resolution authorizing execution of an employment agreement with Mr. Jamal T. Fox as the city manager. So just as we said, Ms. Ludlow is retiring on July 1st. We have been conducting an extensive executive search. We hired and worked with the firm of Novak Consulting. We had a community conversation, an online survey, two stakeholder focus groups, and additional stakeholder interviews. We, on the nationwide search, had over 50 applicants for the position. We had various selection methods, including resume screening, phone interviews, virtual and in-person interviews. And the council selected Mr. Fox to be the next city manager. And we have his contract before us. So would someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Siemens moved, Councilman Devala second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the city clerk, Councilman Searcy, sorry.
I've been slow to raise my hand because I'm trying to multitask today. So I just, before we take this vote, want to say how much I appreciate the thorough process that the council undertook in order to select Mr. Fox. And also just want to publicly say how excited I am that he will be coming to the city. So definitely look forward to working with Mr. Fox. He will have very large shoes to fill, left behind by our current city manager, but definitely feel that he is for sure committed to doing a good job with the city. So just wanted to say that before we vote.
Great. Thank you, Councilwoman Searcy. All right, will the clerk call the vote, please?
Councilmember Kovar,
Aye.
Councilmember Devala,
Yes.
Councilmember Costick,
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens,
Enthusiastically, aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy,
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. And I also want to note that in the new city manager, Mr. Fox will be starting on August 2nd. In the interim, our deputy city manager, Jessica Clark, will be the acting city manager at that time. I do want to note we're all very excited for Mr. Fox to begin. And as you know, at the top of the meeting, I read out our agenda for July. It is packed. Just making a note that Ms. Clark will be our acting city manager. She doesn't miraculously turn into two people on July 1st. She will not have a deputy. And there is an awful lot of work we need to do in the month of July as we're transitioning to the new city manager. So for one, I just want to say thank you to acting city, or who, Jessica Clark, for taking on that role and doing so enthusiastically. I hope you're just as enthusiastic at the end of July. And also just to note to members of the public and my colleagues that we very much appreciate the patience you all have shown over the last 15 or 16 months over COVID, as we've transitioned many times to doing things a little bit differently. And we ask that you just be patient a little while longer as we do things. Things may take us a bit longer, particularly in the month of July, to respond to things, but we are in the middle of transitions and we're all very excited and believe we're going to have a very successful one. So thank you all for all your work doing the interviews and everything else. It was a very successful process. All right, our next voting item is changing the City of Tacoma Park's registered agent or record with the State Department of Assessments and Taxation to the Deputy City Manager. I don't know if the City Manager wants to give some background on this one, or the Deputy City Manager.
It's very simple. If there's different kinds of lawsuits or subpoenas or things that need to come to the city, there's a person that needs to be designated to receive them. It's traditionally either the deputy city manager or the city manager. And so it's been me for a while. It makes sense to be in the deputy city manager position. And so I urge you to name Jessica Clark as the agent, and then that would just continue even after the new city manager comes on board.
Great. All right. Will someone like to move the resolution? Councilman Costick and Councilmember Searcy second. Any questions on that? All right, not seeing any. Will the clerk call the vote?
Councilmember Kovar.
Aye.
Councilmember DeBala. Councilmember Costick.
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy.
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. All right, our next voting item is extending the term of the Task Force for Reimagining Public Safety to ensure racial justice, and then the terms of its members. With someone like, yeah.
Just a note, when we were doing the paperwork to extend the other committees, it was through October 15th. We just put in as October 15th. We expect that this actually will be completed by the end of July, and the extension with the contractor is through the end of July. So I don't think it makes a difference, but if you'd like to change the end date, you're welcome to do that.
Okay. Are we good with it? Yes, Councilman Searcy.
Great. So the only thing that I'm fine with keeping things until October, primarily to allow the council with some flexibility in terms of our agenda for July. And I don't know, Mayor, if we already have like some time scheduled where, they could come to us for recommendations in July on the agenda. But if that's not the case and we run into our recess, then we probably won't have a final presentation until August. So I'm just trying to, I agree that flexibility of October is probably a little too much flexibility.
Yeah.
We're still working towards getting the report and the recommendations in July. That said, I know our agenda is very packed in July, and we may not have the flexibility in order for the task force to come back to present its recommendations to the council in July.
Yeah, we do have tentatively scheduled July 13th, but yes, that's July. Yeah, so and we're still checking with them, but agree that if we can't do the 13th, it might be hard and may need to be pushed till September. So, but I think we're going to work hard to try and get the 13th.
Yeah, it was confirmed last night, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
We're good then. They're coming on July 13th.
Okay, so if that's the case, I mean, I understand that we're going to be consistent with the other committees, but given that this is a task force and not a standing committee, I would like to propose that we extend them until July the 31st of 2021, and that would meet the needs of our current contract period, and also, we will be presented and we'll have the report.
Okay. Councilmember Kovar, did you have?
Just a question on that. So since the recommendations could entail budgetary components, is there, I mean, I could easily imagine that type of discussion taking more than just whatever we may be able to do on the 13th. And so the question is if the continued discussion of whatever the recommendations are, particularly if they do involve us having to vote on budgetary changes and other more complex matters, if that does continue on into the fall, does it work for us to do that at a time when the task force itself doesn't exist anymore? In other words, is it worth retaining their existence so that we could consult with them in September and October? I understand that the bulk of their recommendations would have been done. I'm just wondering about our processing of it, so to speak.
Ms. Cornbrook, did you want to jump in?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, and it may go to the point that Councilmember Kovar just raised, but the resolution is written in such a way that that upon the final or the presentation of the final report from the task force, that they are dissolved. So once that presentation is made, they no longer exist. So I just wanted you to be aware of that for the purpose of the discussion related to any extension, and also now as a result of the point that Councilmember Kovar has raised. And that is a carryover from the original resolution and the way it was written that way. And it worked well with trying to address the time frame and some of the uncertainty that the council is seeking to address. But it does not address the point that Councilmember Kovar just raised.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I will just say, I did happen to see 2 of the task force members tonight, and they are actually anxious they're glad of the work, but they don't want it extended any further. So I actually like the idea of the task force dissolving on when they give the final presentation. And if we need to bring some back or reconvene, that we might be able to do that in another form later on. So does that work for folks?
That works for me.
Okay.
Kovar?
Yeah, it just sounds as if we may end up calling back some of the members anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm agnostic on it. I just wanted to make sure we weren't missing that opportunity if we needed it.
Great. All right. Will someone pass move the resolution? Sorry. Councilwoman Searcy, do I have a second? Councilwoman DeBala. All right. Will the clerk call the vote?
Councilmember Kovar,
And we're voting with the change to expiring in July, right?
No, this is the original because they expire when they give their final presentation.
Gotcha. Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember DeBala, Councilmember Costick,
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy,
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. All right. Our next voting item is a resolution recommending disapproval of the Tacoma Junction Development Site Plan by the Montgomery County Planning Board. I think I'm first turning it over to the city manager.
Thank you. The current Tacoma Junction site plan, which is before you, has been reviewed by the council for some time, and a draft resolution was discussed about this site plan at last Wednesday's council meeting. A hand vote was taken on the provisions, and the council directed the compilation of the draft resolution that is now before you. I'd like to reiterate that the vote is on this particular site plan. There is a whereas clause that states that the council reserves the option to reopen the review of the site plan as new information is provided by NDC, SHA, or other reviewing agencies. We did share this information and post the revised site plan at the end of the week last week. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but it is what you had directed at last Wednesday's meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, city manager. Councilmember Smith, did you have a question before we asked to move the resolution?
So how long do we leave it open until we can walk away from this project?
That's not a question to be addressed this evening. Tonight, this is a resolution specifically on this site plan. So that would need to be a discussion, I think, at another time.
Okay. Would someone like to move the resolution? Since we're voting on this tonight, we'll move the resolution and then entertain any amendments or changes. Councilmember Kovar moved, Councilmember Costick second. All right, any amendments to discuss? Oh, and I can, here, I can share my screen, sorry. Can people see that? Yes, is it big enough? Yeah, okay. All right. It's a little harder for me to see hands, so does anybody have any amendments they would like to propose? Councilman Devala.
Yes, thank you. And as the city manager said, tonight we're focused on the current site plan before us. And I appreciate all the efforts of everybody concerned to bring us to this point with all the work that's gone on and all the efforts to meet what the council has laid out in its various resolutions. My review has looked specifically at the site plan and at what the city council has required and whether this particular site plan meets those requirements. And I note also that, as with many others, that there is a clause to look again if there's new information. And I note that with many other similar resolutions to the county planning board on other projects, the city has taken this format, approve, disapprove, rather than just a list of comments. So having said all of that, I wanted to particularly turn to the parking number 3 and wanting to capture some of the discussion that we had last week about what this site plan does and does not contain relative to how many spaces and also who gets to use them. So I would like to propose amending the language slightly, mostly for clarification, to say that the plan does not this plan does not demonstrate adequate parking for area businesses as stated in the resolution. To be clear that
Sorry, I messed up. Hold on. Back up.
okay. It's what I sent you earlier, but maybe it's quicker to just type it in.
I did not have an opportunity to
okay,
so.
sorry.
That's okay. I just
the plan. So instead of what's there,
So I'm sorry,
I'm on number
Councilmember Devala,
4,
you're
I'm sorry.
on number 4, not number 3.
I apologize. I'm on number 4, public parking. I am on parking. I'm just
sorry. I went to 3 and I started typing and I realized.
so instead of the sentence that is there, to say the plan does not demonstrate adequate public parking for area businesses as stated, and then in resolution, what you have there, resolution 2018-41. And while it is perhaps a subtle change, I think it more accurately captures the discussion that we had last week about what types of things we were looking for and what is currently reflected in this plan and what isn't. And I have run this language by the city attorney if he has any comments, or if he would like me to just say that he was okay with it from a legal point of view. So that's my amendment. Thank you.
Do I have a yeah.
I say I second that.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Siemens. Any comments or questions? Right, again, it's hard for me to, Councilmember Kovar.
Just two questions. Thank you for the proposal, Councilmember Devala. One, I think you said, and I just want to make sure if I heard it right, this is really small, but you said, I thought you said the plan doesn't demonstrate public parking for area businesses as stated in resolution and not by. I don't know if that matters, but
You're right.
But your point is that the resolution discusses the parking, but doesn't have it in a resolve clause, and that's the reason why, one of the reasons why you're suggesting making this change. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other,
I support.
any other comments on this? All right, will the clerk call the vote on the amendment?
Councilmember Kovar,
Aye.
Councilmember Devala,
Yes.
Councilmember Costick,
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy,
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. Any other amendments at this point? No other amendments? I'm going to take it going once, going twice. All right, I'm taking it down. Before I call the vote, would anyone like to make a comment? Councilmember Kovar.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to comment on one aspect of what we're doing. I've heard from residents who have said, what happens next and how come all the next steps aren't in this too? And from my point of view, I think it's important to emphasize that I don't think the council can just decide that on our own. We have to decide that in consultation with the community, hearing from residents and so on. And so this is, I've said it will be an iterative process as I see it. Step by step, it will work its way through. This is an important first step, but I think it wouldn't be appropriate for us to decide everything right now. We're voting on this, which relates specifically to the planning board connected to our resolution in 2018. And that's what we're on. Other aspects of it will be discussed at a future time.
Thank you. Councilman Searcy.
First, I want to thank all of the hard work that everyone has put into this plan. I know that this has been a multiple year endeavor, and I understand how difficult it is often to try to balance all of the different requirements at different levels and different demands. That said, I think one of the things that's really critical for this particular project is the lay-by and the ripple effects that the lay-by has on other aspects of the site plan, which makes looking at other facets independently very, very difficult to do. And so, again, I support the revised resolution based on that fact that there are so many other confounding factors that are linked to that lay-by that it's important for us to keep in mind. So again, I just wanted to state that and again, reiterate my desire to see development happen at the junction. I think this is a critical parcel of land that can really be used in a way that's beneficial to the entire community. I just think that we're running into some issues with the SHA and that intersection, and particularly the lay-by. So I just wanted to share that thought because I know that residents may be asking about why we're moving down this path, but I do think it's important to keep in mind the domino effect of the lay-by as we're reviewing the site plan. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilman Devala. Councilman Devala, we can't hear you.
I may not have a whole lot more to say, as Councilmember Searcy eloquently said pretty much what I was going to say. I have been a supporter of the project, and it is it is for me this particular resolution really comes mostly down from me to the lack of an approval of a lay-by any form and no alternative proposal for us to consider at this time. And then the ripple effects of that through some of the other aspects of the project. And I have heard from a number of residents in Ward 2. I want to thank you all for reaching out to me, letting me know that you did and do support the proposal, as well as folks who've opposed it. So I'm looking again, at what's before us, and I'm particularly concerned about the lay-by aspect of this. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Costa.
Thank you. I want to reiterate my thanks to everyone for your work on this project and all of the community engagement that there has been over the years. Over the past several months, starting back earlier in the spring, I had a couple of really concerted efforts at reaching out to community members and getting feedback. And one of those included a comment form. I just want to, thank residents who have filled that out, both the city form as well as the Ward 3 form. I had more than 60 comments, separate individuals filled that out, which was really, really helpful, as well as a word meeting over the weekend. And of course, conversations with residents and emails and things. So just want to thank everyone for your ongoing communication and conversation about this project and the junction as a whole. I outlined my views a little more in depth last week when we talked at the work session. I do support this resolution. And as I noted then, I have concerns about the lay-by and the lack of SHA approval, as other council members have laid out. I think the safety as well as the accessibility of the public space there and how that interacts with the lay-by is a big question and a concern of mine. And the public gathering space there as well, which I discussed last week, being the type and quality that we want to see there, and allowing for real substantial gathering of residents. And then I outlined some concerns last week as well about the rear and stormwater, as well as parking. So I don't need to reiterate those again, but just wanted to raise those and also just reiterate my thanks and that I do support moving on this resolution. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Smith.
I support this resolution. I think it is really important that council articulates to the community what is going to be the next step, because people are going to be anxious and want to know what's going to happen at the junction. In addition to the lay-by, which I don't see how that's going to ever be resolved. Can it be resolved? I mean, the development partner tried 2 different iterations and they were shot down. So I don't know how you can come up with 3rd iteration for a lay-by. And then the public space, I couldn't understand that presentation. That didn't make any sense to me. So I hope the council comes up with a roadmap to move forward on what we're going to do with this project.
I just want to start and say thank you to everyone for all their hard work. In particular, I want to thank our city staff, Samira Cook-Gaines and Roz Grinsby, for all the hours that they have put in, and also particularly on Jing at Neighborhood Development Company to get us to this place. As I said last week, given the site plan before us and that at the moment we don't have a plan for deliveries, it just doesn't seem possible for me to really look at this site plan and how it will function in our community as presented. And so I just think as moving forward, I agree with my colleagues. I'm going to vote for the resolution. And I do see the lack of a plan for deliveries, as well as thinking about how a potential lay-by may fit into this will impact other aspects of the site plan. So that is how I'm voting tonight. I think I am not seeing any other hands, and I will ask the clerk to call the vote.
Councilmember Kovar,
Aye.
Councilmember Devala,
Aye.
Councilmember Costick,
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy,
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. All right, that takes us to our final voting item of the evening, which was our emergency ordinance regarding the authorizing the city manager, no, it's not on that piece of paper because that was old, to use housing reserve funds for a property on Holton Lane to partner with a nonprofit. So I don't know if we have Ms. Wiggins with us or if I'm turning it over to the city manager or.
I thought Ms. Wiggins would join us, but I think she may have thought it would be a little later.
Okay.
Ms. Cook Gaines is here. Also,
Here's Ms.
Oh,
Wiggins.
here she is. So Ms. Wiggins, would you like to just briefly introduce what this project is?
And hold on and let me make sure I'm connected properly. Been actually listening to the meeting on Zoom and on Facebook. And so here I am, and good evening. I'm Grace Wiggins. I'm the housing manager for the city of Tacoma Park. I'm really excited and thankful to the council for hearing this last minute request regarding a property that I think is a wonderful opportunity for the city to once again demonstrate the theory of including missing middle housing in our city. It's a unique property that, unlike the others that I've brought before the council, is in foreclosure. And we've been working with our pipeline partners, HIP and Habitat, to figure out how we can develop this into housing for a family as well as an investment. It has a accessory dwelling unit, which is quite unique. But as Councilmember Searcy will remind me often, these accessory dwelling units are a big part of Ward 6 housing and a really big part of how our families are able to make ends meet by having an investment property inside their home. And so we're bringing this today because the property has gone on and off a couple of times, and we were just recently alerted that it's back on active status on the multiple listing service. I think the important thing for the council to remember about these properties that we're bringing to you, these are opportunities for our really low to moderate income families to enter our community. The project proposals that we've received from both of our partners really brings this down to a price that is incredibly affordable at 80% of the AMI, which is hard to believe. It's also within a half mile of the future Purple Line stop, the transportation center, and all of the resources and services that are available in that Langley Crossroads area. And so if you have questions, please, I don't want to ramble on. Can't believe a meeting could end early. So it must be the power of the city manager. So
It
I'd love to answer any questions that you might have, as well as, kind of the urgency around it.
I can speak just for a moment about the cost. Both Habitat and HIP have looked at different models to make this an affordable home after remodeling into high energy, good, safe standards. And the request would be for about $250,000 to $270,000 from the city as part of a package deal. The cities, it would come from the housing reserve, which right now has just under $500,000, about $478,000 in it. As of July 1st, it would have an additional 229,000 as part of the budget appropriation for as we go into the next fiscal year. And as we mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, we've been awarded an additional $500,000 grant from the state of Maryland precisely for missing middle housing. This is also in an area that the Purple Line Coalition looks to try to encourage this kind of housing, and there's possibilities, I think, for grants or other kinds of arrangements with them. And it's also very new near our rec center development. So there's a lot that's going on that's really positive about this project. It is something that's not through our standard processes, so we do need to move quickly. And I appreciate that many parties looked at this very seriously, but quickly. And it is before you tonight, and I hope you will approve it. Either Ms. Wiggins or I can answer questions about it.
Great. I see Councilmember Kovar has his hand up.
Thank you for the information and for the presentation. And just one question really, and I'm sorry if I missed it in the discussion or in the background material, but is there, or are there aspects of the arrangement, or will there be aimed at preserving its affordability going forward? I know we've done that several times in the past with these collaborations, and I just wondered if it would be possible to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you want me to start, Suzanne? I can. Okay, so all of our projects have the same criteria. They will only be offered to first-time home buyers. They will only be offered to folks that are 80 to 100% of the area median income. They will all have energy efficiencies and sustainability features. And more importantly, to answer your question, Councilmember Kovar, these properties are, wait, I lost my train of thought. Tell me your question. Tell me your train.
It's to continue the affordability over time.
Yeah, everything is going to have an affordability covenant. So it's not going, you know, Habitat has a model that they've implemented through their mission, which is a 30-year covenant on the property. And at the time of sale, the property goes back with a right of first refusal to Habitat for Humanity. And HIP also has similar covenants that are placed, and we have a little bit more liberty than what we have with Habitat to place covenants that are long-standing to ensure that the subsequent buyers are also buying at that same price point. So all of our projects have that same criteria in mind. I mean, the idea is that we want long-term sustainable step-up housing for folks that, you know, really won't have the income to be a part of our community.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And that was what I was looking for. And I would just say that it does seem as if with this project, hopefully this will go forward. And a few of the other small ones along these lines that we've done recently, it's sort of a test of this concept. And so what we need to figure out, and this is not the evening to discuss it, is how to bring that approach to a wider scale so that we can really have a chance to move the needle. Obviously, a project like this is great because a few families get an opportunity to live somewhere affordable, and it may be a better alternative, certainly is, than having that house turn over and sell for some huge amount, which continues the upward pressure. But obviously, a handful of projects here and there, as meritorious as these are, doesn't move the needle as much as being able to somehow get it to scale. And so, again, we're not going to solve that tonight, but I do want to say that I see that as our ultimate goal. So thank you again, and I support the project.
Thank you so much.
Great. And before I go to Councilman Deval, I just want to, because it was said, but I want to underscore what the city manager said is the $500,000 grant we got to help us provide and do missing middle housing. And
kudos to my staff, by the way.
As I was going to say, grants, I think, go to the point, Councilmember Kovar, you were saying about how we scale this up, because grant money doesn't just walk in. It has to be gotten after. And so I very much appreciate the staff and all their work on this. Councilman Devala.
Yes, I appreciate that we are in a financial position where we could even consider something like this after the year and a half that we've all had. And I I'm just grateful to the Housing and Economic Development staff that we've got to be bringing these kinds of things forward to us. I like the model. I have a couple of questions about this specific arrangement. So part of the property, first question, part of the property is an ADU. So will it stay an ADU, a rental unit? And if it does, who gets the rental income and how is that reflected in terms of who can qualify to buy and how this is affordable going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Let me start off by saying that, the county back in 2019, through a zoning text amendment, changed and increased the ability for ADUs. We're not seeing as many families as we like, especially in Tacoma Park, taking advantage of the permitting process. I want to make this into a demonstration project of what we can do around accessory dwelling units. And I want the city of Tacoma Park to be the space to do it in Ward 6. Again, where there are a number of homes that already have those basement apartment roughouts. So I think this is going to be an excellent demonstration project that we want to partner with down the road with the county, because again, County Councilmember Reamer was the bill sponsor, and both of our partners have been thinking about what ADUs can do. I think based on my walkthrough with both partners, that's exactly what they want to see happen. The one thing that we learned from the Garland Avenue project, Councilwoman Dabala, is that our families, our first-time homebuyers, are looking for larger spaces, and they are often looking for the opportunity to have intergenerational households where someone's in the basement, like, a grandmother or someone else who is a caregiver. And in this case, it would be a family that would have the ability and have the interest in being a landlord and having that additional income. And that's really, I think, a win for the right family, somebody who's really interested in that as an opportunity. And even if they didn't want the ADU, it's extra living space. The Garland Avenue project, many of the families that applied were turned away because their family sizes were just too big. This house has 3 bedrooms, large bedrooms on in the main home, and then a lower area that has at least 1 additional bedroom and another bathroom. So it's a pretty spacious property and could accommodate a larger family. But I think the ADU is where we're going, and I think our partners are on board with this. As you know, we have a single family home in Councilmember Costick's ward. We have the duplex, and we're looking for more density. And I think we have 3 unique projects here that are being incubated, and I can't emphasize enough, down county matters. Our families that are in lower, wealth status, they can't afford to do that large commute. They can't afford to live in other places and still maintain their jobs. We are doing it in a way that it's not being done anywhere else down county, moving people into homes that they can afford and moving them in turnkey condition, which is going to be really important.
So the other question I've got has to do with the amount that the city puts in, and recognizing, as I said, that we are in the financial position of actually being able to choose this or not. Still, I'd like to hear more about what the other partner will be putting in. My recollection from the deals that we've considered up until now is that 250 to 270,000 is quite a bit more than what we've invested in the other properties. And I would like to hear, again, a little bit more about what the partner is bringing to this and why we would need to be putting that much into 2 units of housing.
That's another great question, because I know that was a concern. I heard that in the open comments period earlier. So it's up to that amount. We're not, we don't know what the actual numbers will look like. I also will say, the first 2 projects that we worked on were in a different time. It's hard to believe. Our very first project was in September of 2020, and the market looked completely different. It is an incredibly competitive market across this entire area. And if you can imagine that folks are buying homes that are $100,000 and $200,000 over asking price, it's hard to compete. I didn't even think this was going to be a possibility, but as a team, we held on to ensure that this was something that could possibly happen. And the good thing about the city of Tacoma Park is that, I don't want to overinvest, but I also have to be realistic about where the market is. And that extra $500,000 that the city manager referenced is really important. We may be able to get another 2 or 3 projects out, but everybody wants to live here. And I don't know how we go as low as we've gone prior to this, but we're going to try. And at the end of the day, the money that the city of Tacoma Park is contributing sits on the property to help with the subsidy, because these properties just are going to be completely unaffordable based on renovation costs, the cost of construction supplies. Councilmember Searcy and I were on a call this week with one of our affordable housing developers where they talked about high construction costs. I will tell you, the benefit of this project versus the first 2 projects, it's right in the center of the Purple Line construction, the future Purple Line site, which means that both of our partners are going to be taking advantage of a lot of money that is being put forward. In addition, they both have, very good relationships with construction companies and Home Depots, those kind of, suppliers that we would never have, and many of our, independent third parties would not have. So they're going to bring down costs. I know that we're trying to get it, as I mentioned, we're trying to get the final asking or the final sale price to $400,000 for a new purchaser. And that's going to be an incredible opportunity for the families selected to purchase this property. So,
and Councilmember Deval, also, I mean, both of the both of the nonprofits are putting in effectively about the amount we would be doing, which is primarily involved with the rehab work. So we end up about a third of the total cost of the project.
So,
and that's if
so
we
there
are
are-
the maximum and there aren't other grants coming in.
So-
We are still going to look for ways to get those numbers down.
okay, I must have misunderstood. So it's not one of those nonprofits or the other, it's both of them together?
No.
one or the other. And
Okay,
they
so
both
then
look
I
good.
thought I heard you say 2 things. We pay about half of it, we pay about a third of it.
So the actual cost of the property plus the rehab work ends up to projects that are somewhere in the like $670,000 to $720,000 investment into the project. So the 250 or so is something that is just a portion of the total cost of the project. Obviously, the purchaser will come in with some funds at that lower rate, but the various nonprofits put in quite a bit toward the total project.
And then did I hear, my last question before we let Councilmember Searcy ask hers, is did I hear you correctly that like the other deals, the Tacoma Park money runs with the property and
Absolutely.
eventually gets paid back? And so that's how long yes or no, and then remind me how long a period that is, just so we all are clear on that.
Yeah, so it does run with the property through construction, through the first owner and until there's a sale.
Right.
So that could either be, a year or 30 years. And really our partners are looking for families that want long-term commitments.
Right.
And so it's not somebody who's trying to buy it and flip it, because that's not our model. We don't want folks to leave with the equity that they've established, and the property is appreciated too. And then the second part of your question, if you could repeat that, I'm sorry, I'm not quite.
Well, I think you answered it. So this is an investment that will at some point be returned, not at a fixed time, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, but when that property is sold. And of course, as you said, we're looking for folks that will be there for a while. But at some point, they will sell it. they will move on. And at that point, the city will get back the money that it's invested. If I got that right.
Correct.
And
You're
that
correct.
would be the full 250 or 270.
Full amount. Our subordinate lien is fully secured. And we ensure that it's filed at the moment of closing, and then it's re-established after construction when the property is, on the market for sale, or, the families move in. So it runs with the property.
Yeah, the number gives me some pause, but let's let somebody else ask some questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilman Searcy.
Great. Well, I just want to say thank you so much to not only our HCD staff and city staff for working on this, but also for the excellent relationships that have been built with the partners that are willing to come in at a moment's notice to try to identify and work on this opportunity. I don't have a question as much as I just want to make sure that folks understand and do a little level setting about housing prices, particularly in my ward. At one point in my ward, homes, maybe like a couple of years before I bought my house, were going at $250,000, $300,000. It was considered one of the cheaper avenues for home ownership, and be in the city of Tacoma Park. Your kids can go to Tacoma Park schools and you can be in a house. And this was what, 2012, 2013, and you can be in a house that was under $400,000. People thought I was nuts when I bought my house at about 400. Those same homes are now, we've had a house sell over $800,000 in this neighborhood that we're talking about, this property. My next door neighbor, mid sixes. So if we don't acquire property, there will be no property to acquire. It will be gone. And the prices of this land is increasing astronomically. So if what we want as a city, as a priority, to create those missing middle opportunities, and we want to have full control over the ability to do that, when these opportunities arrive, we have to jump on it. This particular property, the only reason it is still standing in this neighborhood is because the bank has been difficult. Every other property has sold probably in less than a month. There's nothing else left. So as we are talking about things like cost, as we are talking about things like creating the opportunities for home ownership for a number of our families that are currently living in some of our multifamily buildings who could never afford to be able to buy a home in the city. And perhaps this ward was one of the few areas left standing. It's almost gone. So if this is something that we want to prioritize, we have to be willing to put our money where our mouths are. Otherwise, it won't even be an option, because a vacant parcel of land will be $600,000. And we definitely couldn't afford it. So I just want to kind of provide that as a little bit of background of what I am seeing in terms of home prices, acquisitions in my ward, and how critical it is, especially in light of the purple line, whenever we get it, that the prices of property in this area will increase astronomically, and we may not be, we're chasing something that's already moving, and we have to just do the best we can with gathering whatever properties we can so we can get to that point where we can think about things like a community land trust. Because right now those properties are changing hands and their value is going up so much that by the time we even figure out how to get enough money together to put together some kind of community land trust, those properties may have gone up astronomically. So I do just want to provide that as a little bit of context. and definitely echo what Grace has already mentioned in terms of how people live in this ward. We have a number of people who have ADUs already in their units, but they're using them for multi-generational living. So how do we kind of also continue to make sure that we're creating the models, but also as properties change hands and those ADUs are there, that we're promoting people and creating those opportunities for people to maintain them. So I'm going to step off my soapbox and just say that I really, really do support this effort, and I appreciate how fast staff and potential partners have been able to rally around figuring out an approach to get this property. And I know, because it has been vacant for so long, residents on that street where we've received complaints, and I'm pretty sure Rick would be excited to see this thing move, because it has created issues with blight and property management in the community, because it has sat vacant. Because for a bank, it is more profitable for them to keep that property vacant and wait for the value to go up if they know it, and not sell. So if we can create this opportunity where there are incentives for the current mortgage holder to sell, I think that's going to be a great benefit to the community as well. So again, I support this, and I thank you all for working on it.
Okay, Councilmember Siemens.
Thank you, Mayor. I always find it difficult to follow Councilmember Searcy and her passion and ability to get the points across. I just wanted to add something that, from my perspective, is equally important to the nature of the project, and that is my appreciation and trust in the staff members that are working on this. I know that Ms. Wiggins has her heart and her passion committed to not just addressing the priorities of the council, but to actually helping make sure that we do have affordable housing for some of the members of the community that are on the have lower incomes, and this project is aimed towards that. And one of the questions was, well, is this the right project? Are we going to have more money for other things in the future? And again, Ms. Wiggins has been here long enough for me to get to know her, and the other members of the council to get to know her and develop that trust. And I know that she is not going to put a nickel into this that is wasted and could be used for a similar project later downstream, that she's going to maximize the use of the funds that we're able to put together for affordable housing. So I thank you, Grace Wiggins, for your commitment to this priority, and also to the other people who have worked so hard on this, not the least of which is our city manager, Suzanne Ludlow. I thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Smith.
I would like to join my colleagues and thank Ms. Wiggins and Ms. Cook Gaines for all their hard work on this. I'm surprised that it's only $270,000 that the council is being asked to approve for this project. The only way you can have affordable housing is government has to put some money into the pot. And I'm just delighted to see that we are doing that. The other thing is, if we do approve this, that we should be prepared that if Ms. Wiggins brings another project before us, that it's going to be more than $270,000. And if affordable housing is a priority for us, then we're going to have to find the money to also invest in that project. Housing is expensive, that's bottom line. It's a multi-trillion-dollar market. And if we want to play in it, we got to come up with the money to do it. If we don't, it's just rhetoric. Thank you.
Councilman Kostick.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate my thanks to Ms. Wiggins and Ms. Cook Gaines and Ms. Ludlow. I think this is an exciting opportunity to continue to be innovative and find new ways to fill the gap of missing middle housing. So I'm excited about this, and I hope we'll be able to find some type of way to sort of put together our findings as we're doing this work and share them with other communities to share some of the innovative things that we're doing. So thank you.
I said, Councilor Kosnick, you completely stole, like, that was, as we were talking tonight, I'm like, we got to tell this story better. And I don't know, maybe if it's getting city TV, but I mean, going back to like establishing a housing reserve fund, doing our strategic plan, laying a good foundation, having awesome staff, and then finding these opportunities, building great partnerships. This is a story we really do need to tell our residents as well as others. So I don't know if this is something, maybe a project, maybe the deputy city manager could put a buzz in the ear of our city TV, or at least maybe do a pullout for our newsletter. But I think this is the amazing work you're doing really is a story that needs to be told. And we need to document because right now we have, just off the top of my head, we have 3 projects, active projects in Ward 6, 3, and 2 in the last, little over a year. That's pretty amazing. And that's great. Councilman Dabala, did you have another question?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that I support the concept and I support this project. My question had to do with at some point, the percentage of the value of the property as a lien becomes kind of high. And so that at some point, to me, is it 100% of the value of the property that the city would be willing to loan? Well, maybe not. So somewhere there's a level at which it might not be worth the investment, but you all have persuaded me that this project is not the one where we're hitting the limit. So thank you for letting me clarify what my specific concern was.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Let me just quickly address this. And you're going to hear from, I think it's on the July 14th agenda. You're going to hear from Habitat for Humanity on our first project. Just to give some context, the Garland Avenue project, as you know, is going to be a duplex. It was formerly a rental with 3 partners have seen this. There is so much equity that's in that property. At the time that, the first buyer gets that property, we're figuring out how to kind of create additional liens so that we soak up some of that additional equity because it's so high. I'm curious to see what that will look like for the Ward 3 project, 320 Lincoln, because I do think there's going to be a ton of equity. So we're trying to balance that. And honestly, I appreciate Council Member Seaman's comments. We're really serious about this work. And we realize that these are taxpayer dollars and we really want to be mindful of that. And we want to be good stewards. So, this won't be the last time you will see us. We are already in the process of documenting this, both for our city as well as for our partners, because nobody is doing this down county. That's the soundbite. Nobody is creating affordable home ownership down county, except for Tacoma Park. And if you can find a project to prove me wrong, I'd love to see it.
Great. Ms. Cook Gaines? Yeah.
I don't want to belabor the point, but I really want to just emphasize one thing to this city council and this story. You are doing legacy work. Legacy work means that you are touching multiple generations. And when it comes to economic development, that is a very difficult thing to do if you're not a huge developer. I agree with Councilmember Kovar that at some point we're going to hit that, that tipping point and be able to do something much larger. But what we will have are processes and partners who are very well acclimated to our city and who will have experienced this with us. So the time will come at some point where there will be a bigger opportunity. This is legacy work. We are talking about multiple generations who will be in these properties, who will benefit from the amazing amenities of this city. And this is the council that began this legacy work. So I really want to emphasize that. And of course, the due diligence around how we spend and what we spend. This was one of those such a time moments, you know, during an incredible pandemic, we were able to do legacy work, not just save businesses or keep people from eviction. This is what the country was doing. But because Tacoma Park prepared and cared, we're able to do legacy work around affordable home ownership, which is a game changer. So it has been, this initiative is, you know, a little bit of a miracle in Montgomery County, if you guys could look at it that way. And I also want to go into the practical details around economic development and homeowners, right? We want to share some of the cost of what it takes to run a city that is as responsive and as amenity filled as we are. So let's invite more people in. Let's invite a variety and a diverse group of people in. I am also in awe of just the team that's been able to pull this together. Everything from the partnership creation to, you know, where we are now. And I have to say, it started with a conversation in Grace's office, a conversation, you know, we had together. So I just want to emphasize that and applaud the council for doing not just everyday maintenance work, but for doing legacy work.
Thank you. Oh, we have to vote, right? Yes. Did we move this yet? Sorry, I don't even think we moved it yet. Would someone like to move the emergency ordinance? Councilman Searcy, Councilmember Seaman, second. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, will the clerk call the vote?
Councilmember Kovar,
Aye.
Councilmember Dabala,
Yes.
Councilmember Costick,
Yes.
Councilmember Siemens,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Searcy,
Aye.
Mayor Stewart.
Yes. Thank you very much. Very
Mayor
excited
Stewart?
about this. Yes.
If I could just say that I'm really happy that this is the last action item that I'll be on a regular council meeting with you on. And thank you. It really is exciting for Tacoma Park.
Yes, and I really want to thank Grace and Samira that getting this on the agenda. It was close today. A lot of work I know went on, and I know when I get a phone call from Grace before 9 a.m., it's important work. So I appreciate everything you're all doing, and thank you very much for bringing this to us. And we'll be back here again next Wednesday night. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. We are adjourned.